Welcome back to K&L Farms. And the question that, including myself, everybody's asking, can I dig that stump out of the ground with that rental excavator? And you can see, I'm hoping you can see that I was halfway to China, but I finally got it to start moving. And this one closest to me I thought would be the easier one, which I'm hoping it's not. But I'm going to try and pull that stump out. And then, not on this video, probably none of the video, but that one over there. But all the other stumps are gone. And I'm just digging, just keep digging. And then I'm going to try and pull that stump, that stump out. And that's the stump in question. I'll spin you a little bit so you get a better view. There you go. And I'll get on there and see if I can get that. I think I can get it pulled out. But I don't know if I can pick it and put it on the brush pile. That's part of the issue. But these two stumps are the two stumps remaining to continue to build, or to move forward to build the building. As long as that chicken doesn't jump in that hole, I'll be okay. Saw ran on the gas. I got it fueled up. It's running in the background. Let's see if we can put this tree on the ground. It's quite a ways out, but I don't want the chainsaw noise. I didn't get the face cut all the way in, but I'm trying to get that dead tree, that fire danger tree right there on the ground, trying to aim it towards that burn pile. I just wanted to bring you up to date because everything I can think of is ready to go for tomorrow. I'm going to pour this concrete tomorrow. 4 or 5 guys will show up and help me. But let's start out with, if you can see back here, see this paper. This paper. I was on a job with a cousin maybe 3 years ago, and the cousin said, he said, well, how are you going to protect that wall? We were pouring a garage, and there was a garage structure. We were pouring the pad out front, and he's like, well, you need to put something up there. And I was like, you're full of hooey. You don't know. Well, you knew more than I did. So that's why that paper's there, because that concrete, this is going to be inside the building, inside the new building. And I want that to be a feature wall, and I don't want a bunch of concrete splashing up against it, because once we get to pouring concrete tomorrow, and I won't show you a video of us pouring, I'll show you a video later on of the finished product, because there's going to be a whole bunch of guys here, truck here, and we're just trying to get the mud on the ground and try and get it as flat as we can get it, and then the truck leaves, and then we spend quite a few hours trying to get it straightened out, leveled off, and flat and clean. And it's quite a show. But I'm going to show you a few things. But barrier paper's down, rebar's down. Now you see the rebar doesn't have a standoff piece, and I used to call them a Dublin, but they used to be a piece of concrete. And I think I illustrated it on a different video, but I had the taller one, went back and got the 1-inch ones, or that's actually a 2-inch one. And the reason being is that the chute, we're not bringing a pumper truck in because I'm too cheap. We're just gonna, they call it tailgating, off the back of the truck. 16 feet is the longest they carry on the truck. This mark, there's an X right here. I'm standing on an X right here. So I'm gonna have to take a wheelbarrow. And there's 2 wheelbarrows. You can't see on the video, but there's 2 wheelbarrows. The concrete truck dumps them in a wheelbarrow, and then a person will take that wheelbarrow over to that corner and dump it, and then I'll start working it. He'll come back, or another person will get another wheelbarrow, and we'll be rotating. And we think, excuse me, we think that there's going to be about 10 wheelbarrows, and then after that, from this point, I can rake it. And you should be able to see in the video all the monuments that I talked about on the previous video. They're all set, and they're all level and true. And I took one of those wheelbarrows and a couple bags of concrete, mixed it up in the wheelbarrow, and then I took a trowel and I concreted for temp. I concreted all of the monuments around the perimeter, so that that's another thing you don't have to deal with, because before pour day, you want as much done prior to when the truck gets here that you can achieve. Now there's a few things I need to carry out, but not very much tomorrow. And then as you can see on the camera, this is 20 foot wide, and I don't know of anybody that tries discrete 20 feet wide. It's just your first rough leveling of the concrete. And so I took these stakes, I call them a survey stake. I took these stakes every 4 feet, I put a stake out, and then I took one of these, which I bought, pardon the chicken. Chickens do what they want to do, just the way it works. I took one of these, and let me show you better, illustrate one of these better. I took one of these and I put it on this stake. This stake's driven in the ground. That's a 3 foot stake, probably 2 feet showing. I don't know why that chicken is so amused by that stake. Probably chasing a shadow, but I'm not sure. But in any case, I took that and then I leveled it off of there's a form board behind, or right in front of me, and then I leveled it to this monument. There's a monument right here,
monument right here, preset already. And so I leveled that out, and let me show you the street board. And I'll just pitch this, because that was a spare, just an example. We're showing you what I'm doing. Okay, street board. So I'm going to back this street board up so you can see it. So this street board now is going to set on that outside form, and then on that board that I pre-exist, that I made, that's level and true, and that's the height that I want those fellas to start it out. And once they get it started, they're just roughing it in. First we're going to wheelbarrow this corner in, and then they're going to screed it kind of level, and then I'll come back with a trowel. And this is a new one. This is actually for that cousin I was telling you about. This is a new one. They call it a mag float, and I'll just use this trowel. But before I get to the trowel, they're going to take a bowl float. This is our bowl float, been in my family for a long time, and I've used it a lot. Take a bowl float. After they screed it, I'm going to bowl float it. That's the start of getting it level. Okay, and then once I get the bowl float, these guys, I get this done, I'm going to have to work all this by hand, because around that monument, work it by hand with a trowel. I've got my own trowel. That's actually a cousin's trowel that I bought for him. And then I work this around, okay? And then once they get pulled back that way, remember truck's over there, we're tailgating the truck for this section first because it's wheelbarrow, and then after that X mark that I showed you, then he can actually dump by himself. So I'll have two guys moving the street board, and then I'll be in front of them. Me and probably one other guy that knows how to do concrete will be in front of them, and then we'll do the bowl float. I'll screed the trowel around that, and around that door. Okay, so we got it done. Pour this section, pour all the way to the camera, and then the truck can tailgate off that. I got to pull that stake and that form board out of there, that level board, and then we're going to level off the floor that we poured. So there'd be a floor here that we poured. We're going to pour that off that. We're going to screed off that floor we poured. Pour that board, leave that board intact. Pour this corner. Last corner will be that corner, and then after that, we'll take this 3 foot trowel on a stick. We have quite a few of these sticks, and then we start troweling, and then the work starts after the truck leaves, after we get it down and squared. But you're in a rush to get it down and flat. Once you get it down and flat, then you start working it a little bit. But that brings you up to speed. And so the next video I do, if I'm as good as I think I am, there's going to be a concrete floor here, 20 by 20, 5.5 inches deep, with these monuments inside of it. Now, I didn't show you this monument yet, but remember I talked about it on the previous video. This corner, if you can see this corner, doesn't have a monument there. There's no monument for a 6x6. Remember, rough cut 6x6 up, and then 6x6 timber frame on the top. What it is it's this one right here. And the reason I went to this one right here is because that standard one won't fit, because there's a concrete pad where that 6x6 on the inside of that building sits. There's a concrete pad there. So I'm going to have to inset this and level this and square this in the middle of pouring all this floor, and that's why this one's not ready yet. And that pretty much brings you up to date with what I got going on in lieu of tomorrow. And I won't show you, as I stated before, I'm not going to show you me pouring the floor, because you get going. You got a lot of things going on, and you're just trying to get 8 yards on the ground. As here in a little bit, I'll explain my mistake. But the concrete truck showed up. About 5 people were here. 5 of my family members were here,
and we poured this, and they were about 30 minutes late, but they contacted me, and that was mutual agreement. They had a little issue, I had a little issue. I said 30 minutes was fine, and so they showed up and they started pouring. They called for this 20 by 20 by 5.5 inch deep pad to be 6 1/4 yards, and I ordered 7 1/4 yards, and I came up a little bit short, which I'll explain in a minute. But the problem was the ground. Some of the ground I didn't notice, but had some dips in it, and that's what took up the extra yard of concrete. And so we came up short in this corner. Now remember, this corner is going to be, there's going to be a fireplace or a wood stove right here, which I own the wood stove. I'll show you on a later video me installing the wood stove. But I went to town yesterday, and I got 2 60-pound bags of ready mix, concrete bags, and then I filled this corner in because we were taking material from this corner and we were putting it out in the main field in order for the main field to be to have enough concrete, because we were just a little bit short on that pour. And it doesn't really matter, because underneath this wood stove I'm going to put like a hearth underneath it, a pad, and probably a custom made pad. And since I do most of my own work here, buildings type thing, I wasn't really that concerned with it. And also remember that this corner over here, I'm hoping you can see this is going to be a kitchenette. It's going to be a kitchenette right here. It's planned to be a wood stove right there, a bed over there, entryway through the big shop right there, and an entryway right over there. And so I'm going to take, this has been curing enough, This form board out, that form board, and probably that form board out for you. So you can see that, lip here in just a minute. I call these survey stakes. They're actually form stakes. I don't want to walk on that because it's still green. It's still wet. And one thing I told you on a previous video that I did was try and see how it's dug out? It's dug out about 3 feet, so you can walk around, which came in handy when we poured this. Because if you pour or have your grade right up against it, you can't walk around the perimeter, and you're going to need to walk around the perimeter quite a bit. Just pull your stakes. That one might be tough. Now these 2 corners I should be able to get out. Now also, that board, I wet it down before I poured the concrete so it didn't stick, and that board will be part of the building. There's no need to throw those boards away because they're fairly expensive. And now you can see that base of that slab. Okay, so now I got the forms pulled. And just to reiterate, my error was I should have ordered 7.5 yards. You're paying for the truck anyway, but I thought if I ordered an extra yard, I would have more than enough, but I was wrong. And so I had to go back and fill that corner up a little bit. And if you go back to on my channel, you'll see me loading that log on and cutting that log in a square. And then that log needs to be a 6x6, so I'm going to attempt to make that into a 6x6. I'll have to cut some, I'll measure it, give you the dimension of it. I'll have to cut some 1 inch off of it, because right now I think it's 9 inches tall, 9 inches deep. But give me just a second and I'll show you. Uh, 8.5 by about 8.25, but I can fix that here in a little bit. I'm in the big barn today, just to catch you up a little bit, but I have to make kind of a retraction. I made a mistake early on, and it took me a while to figure out what the mistake was, and so I'll show you. Okay, so starting out, when I got the sawmill, I got it's a Woodland 122 sawmill, and all of my material, all the timber frame material has been cut on that sawmill since I've owned it. But the first blade came, and the first blade I think had, the first blade on it had a 5/8 tooth. That means it was 5/8 apart. And I bought a batch of saw blades. I bought an extra 5 because I knew that the standard is between 3 and 5 logs is about what you can cut with a saw blade. So I was going to need extras. So the second blade I put on it was a 3/4. I think they call it a kerf. A 3/4, the gap between the two teeth. And I got this finish. That's the second blade I put on it. I got this finish. Now I don't know if you can see it, but it was really abrupt, and I just thought that I purchased the wrong kerf or gap in the blade, because the blades I purchased for the replacement were all-purpose. The first blade that was on it that came from the factory was for hardwoods, and I just wanted an all-purpose one and put the second blade on. Now I cut enough logs up on the second blade, and I put the third blade on. And when I put the third blade on, which had the same gap, had the 7/8 gap, that went away. So to come to find out in the retraction is, the second blade I put on had a bent tooth. There was a tooth somewhere on that saw in freight, got bent out, and it was showing itself when it would go around. It would show that one tooth, and I didn't realize it and said that it was the tooth count, which it wasn't. I have cut some since I put the third blade. The third blade's still on it down at the sawmill, and it's much better. The finish is much better. The finish is much more acceptable. And so what I've been doing with this rough cut stuff, the stuff that I ran the second blade on, I've been taking, I own a hand grinder, I'm sorry, a hand planer. I just take a hand planer after I get it, the product made how I want it, and I just run the hand planer over it, plane it a little bit. I keep some rough finish on it because I wanted people to be aware that it actually came from a portable sawmill. And on the previous video, I said that on this one I will try to explain part of what I'm doing, and that's a knee brace. That's an example of a knee brace with the end. And what it does is, say you have a post, and there behind me you'll see a main header, and I'll put this in the main header in just a minute. And you got to notch this out so that it fits inside that post. So the post, you go up, you go 3 feet down, there'll be a hole. There's a 2-inch wide, 4 inches tall. There's a hole that this actually fits in. And I'm making some of these. Now I won't be able to video the whole process of making one because it's very time consuming. And I found that every one of these, so like the column or the post closest to us takes 2. It takes one going away from us, would be going south, and it takes one going west. Each post has at least 2 of these knee braces on that go up to the header. And they would look something like, they're designed to look something like that. Now that one doesn't fit in very well, and I don't know if you can see it on the video. I'll actually move the camera closer so I can give you a better picture of that, because I'm going to need to show you more on this as I make that knee brace. But let me move the camera. Okay, got the camera moved. This is a header. Right now it's just a temporary workbench where I make these knee braces. But each one of them has a notch out like this. There's a notch here. And this piece, this design, this is on a 45. If you have a true 90, a 45 would match the two together. And this fits in that brace, something like that. And that's what I call a knee brace. I don't know what they're actually called, but that's what I call them. And this was my example. Now, I made one this morning already. Went out and fit it. I don't have it exactly correct yet. I'll move the camera a little bit again. But
This is just a small skill saw, and what I'm doing is I'm only allowing 1 inch of blade to protrude past the faceplate, so that I only cut into this column. This is a 4x4. When I cut into this column 1 inch, I come back 1 inch on the same angle. The remaining piece is 2 inches. So let me show you. This remaining piece that fits inside of this header and the post is 2 inches wide. So you got 1 inch off this side, 1 inch off this side, and that's how these fit together. Now, how they're going to be secured yet, I don't know. I haven't got that far. But this is what I'm attempting to make as a knee brace. And so I'll cut a few of these. Actually, I got to get my safety glasses on. Now, this one I just left long for example purposes. So I started out, remember, all the stuff coming from the sawmill is wild. Everything's long. You don't cut length off the sawmill. You just cut it to the dimension you want. Leave it long, and then you always have to buck off. But this is the correct length between this angle and this angle. And I'll probably do this end first so that you can see what I'm doing and cut that piece off. So what I need to do is I need to take and cut a bunch of strips so that this 1 inch piece carries through all the way. And I'll get some earplugs in, I'll rip that, and then I'll get a chisel, the one I like using, and then I'll show you kind of a secret that I've been doing. Kind of makes it easier. And that'll give you kind of an example of what it looks like. And I, at random, just cut 1 inch strips and then chisel it out. I like this chisel. I think it's 1.5 inches. They're all good chisels. It's just for some reason I migrate to this 1.5 inches. And then I'll show you here in just a second. But I'm gonna move this towards you a little bit. Move this tape measure, and I'll move it towards the camera a little bit. And then I just start on the end. And just kind of get that flat. Okay, so then the trick a little bit that I do, now that's not quite finished yet, but this much is overhang. So I take this 1.5 inches, I know, and this piece on mine is 1.5 inches deep. Now the cope, or the hole that's in the header, is 2 inches. So that gives me about 1/2 inch of play, because these sometimes they get pretty snug. So all I do is I take a pencil. In this case, I'll just take a pin. I take this 1.5 inches, set it up against, that's my true edge,
and then I just draw a line. Then I take a Sawzall, which I probably won't show you on the video, but I take a Sawzall, come over here, and I'll take and cut that off with a Sawzall. Now that's not traditional. Traditional, you'd have to take a handsaw and handsaw that off. But now remember, this is only half of it. This is only one side of it. Let's roll that over, the part we just did. Now I gotta bring this mark up and this mark up, and then cut the angle in an inch, 1 inch, and then chip that out, and then I cut it to length because there's less material after that. But anyway, I told you on the previous video that this video would be about knee braces, and that's how I've been doing the knee braces so far. And then once I get a few of the knee braces up, I'll actually show you my progress. I have another header, and I can't put a header up yet because the knee braces, you actually got to pick up the header, put the knee brace in the socket, and then go down in order for it to wedge together. But that's what I've been doing today, and thank you. I'm back on the off-grid homestead today, and I'll catch you up a little bit, but if you're following along on my channel, you'll see that I haven't made a lot of progress. A bunch of other stuff came up I had to do, but I got a couple 3 days now that I can actually get back on it. Okay, so I'm building it by myself, and I'm not a contractor, but I built my share of buildings, but I've never done a timber frame building. I'll illustrate some tools, and I'll link them in the description. If you're so inclined you'd like to go check them out, they're on Amazon, my Amazon account. Be my guest. But, this is one that we use if we're ever doing columns. It's I call it a post level. It fits in the corner, got a rubber band. It's got 3 levels on it, so you can actually, by yourself, you can shift that post around to get it in pretty close. Put a couple temporary braces in, which I'll explain more later on. I got a driver in here, a couple ladders. This ladder is just primarily for protection, so that if this beam falls off, this beam is not secure. Actually, that header and that header is secure. This one's not. But if you look, I've got it on top of the other header. This one's going to get screwed down, and I had to level this column off and use temporary braces, because once I get this screwed down, well, this is plumb, I'm going to the excuse me, the other end, and I got to move that one around, and I couldn't chase both of them approximately 10 feet apart. I had to do one at a time, so I just plumbed this one, secured this one, and then I'll screw this top, go to the other end in just a moment, and screw that top off. And when I got a 6-inch long screw that I'm using for temporary, the only pro tip you're going to get from me probably is put these screws on, don't put them in the center. That flat spot is approximately 6 inches by 6 inches. Put them on the edges, because then you can come back after you got it together, you got it temped out, you can bore a hole through the center all the way into this column, and then put a tapered piece of dowel, possibly oak, hickory, whatever you'd like to use, and drive that post or that piece of dowel. Say you got it, say you do a 2-inch, drill a hole through the top header, the secondary header, into this post, and then drive that down, and as it ages, that'll tighten up, and that'll make a more secure area for a joint. And that's kind of how they did it in the old day. And you'd see a dowel sticking up. In fact, if I do it that way, I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but when I do it that way, you'll see a whole bunch of dowels come around. You come back with just a handsaw and cut them all off to flush, and then, but I can't put rafters on. I won't be able to put rafters on with a post sticking up. I'll have to flush it off. Let me show you that level and that driver, and then I'm going to check this out and put this couple of these screws in, and then go to the far side. Standard 4-foot level, and just a driver. This is actually a driver, it's not a drill. There's a difference between drivers and drills. This is a driver, and this is probably my 4th or 5th level that I purchased in my lifetime. And the last one, I did a concrete floor like this one, and it was hot. At the end of the day, it was maybe between 90 and 100 degrees. I forgot it outside, came back the next day, checked it, it was no longer level. So if you're going to use levels, in my case I've got all 4 of them, and I just put on, you know, either bad, out of level, something, so I know which one's which, and I just, for this project, I picked a good one. The better of the 4 anyway. Pretty sure you can see me up here on the ladder. And I'm just going to secure this one and put this other column. I'm going to secure this one and put this other column on top of it. I'm not going to secure it yet, but I just don't want it falling off, because if it comes off there, I'd probably have a video that finally went viral. Too close to the edge, and I don't want to leave that. I don't want to leave that screw exposed. I'm bringing it back in a 1/2 inch. Try and go straight this time. Okay, did you see it suck down a little bit? And that's in this 2-inch corner over here. I'm going to shoot for this inside corner, about 2 inches in, which leaves the center unexposed. Later on. Okay, yep, drop the bit, that happens. Now I'm going to try and pick this up and put it in that socket. And I'm going to try and flare it with my butt a little bit, like that. Bring it back in. And I'll probably tap that other end in, but I got to find that driver bit. And then I'll go down the other end of this column, this header, on that end, and secure that end, if I can find that bit. It's got to shift my way. Well, I got to take this header and bring it my way, but and then that whole outside wall's got to go this way, maybe an 1/8 of an inch. But let me see if I can find that driver. And if I can't, I'll have to cut the video short. Oh, there it is. I got it. Okay. Now, I don't know why that thing keeps falling off there, but it does. Okay, so let's go to the other end. Bring my short ladder over this way. I'm going to take off my post level and put it on the other one because it helps me out by myself. Okay, now probably get me a hammer, because it looks like it's got to shift towards the camera about 3 inches. Then to get the driver, take the driver up with me, if it'll stay. Now that other end will stay for sure because it's been screwed in place. Okay, I'm going to check it with my long level. Yeah, that looks pretty good off the short level. Yeah, that doesn't look bad at all. Doesn't look bad for me anyway. Okay, it's a little bit heavy your way. Okay, I can work with that. I'm going to put a couple screws in this side and then come back towards the camera and
figure out that other header a little bit. And remember, put them in the corners. Sits them down pretty good so that they don't stick up and cause you grief later on. Drop the bit again. Trying to fall off the ladder. Okay, so this header here, I don't know if you can see them indicated. That header here is secure. That header there is secure. This one's not. So I'm going to work on this end, but it looks like it needs to go that way. And I'm going to tap that over with a hammer to get that joint fixed up a little better. See, this joint's exposed a little bit. I can work with that. I'm going to tap this column this way a little bit because it's still that way a quarter or an eighth. Okay, so I'm going to take this temp and tap this temp down a little bit. And I'll check it on this end. I can work with that. Okay. Oh, I got 4 screws in my pocket, I'm pretty sure. Get this ladder up. There we go, that's even better. Now remember, I put it in this corner, this time this corner, and this corner. About 2 inches offset from the edge. Because I'm trying to drive through this, and into that post. But I want the center of it to be open so I can drill it later on and put a dowel in it. Now all this, if you follow the channel, I cut it all on my sawmill. I've got plenty of videos showing you cutting 6x6s. And you notice they have twists in them. And that's just the nature of the beast. Everything that's green is going to twist on you. And it's probably, before I'm done, it's going to crack a little bit too. Probably crack and check some. But I'm trying to get these corners in, so then I can start getting rafters. Now that piece over there, I'll illustrate. That one's secure. This column's straight. That column are plumb, I'm sorry. This header is still on the sawmill, so I've got to bring that header up later on. That header I haven't cut yet. I've got a piece I can make of that. That header over there I'm still short. Those 2 headers I've made. So let's get this corner secure, and you'll have an idea of how the off-grid cabin is going. This one's got a pretty good twist in it, but it's something you got to learn to live with. And then I'll end the video here in just a minute as soon as I get these 2 screws in.
Okay, so from that old existing building, big barn, to through this, columns are straight and plumb. These are secure. So, and I'm going to leave those temps on while I build the rest of it. These temp braces right here. I'll leave those on for now. Just got to remember to pick up my driver and my level, because I explained the importance of storing that inside. And that's what I had for today. Thank you, and have a good day.